Alright, so there's an age-old question that I'll often see, hotels or Airbnbs in Japan, and the answer might surprise you a bit because a lot of countries, to be honest, Airbnbs are actually in a big advantage. They're much cheaper, they're much more spacious, they're more friendly than hotels, honestly. But in Japan, I think it's a bit different, and I'll tell you why. Alright, so let's go through a few categories, starting off with price. With price, you'd expect that hotels in Japan are more expensive than Airbnbs. And if you're staying at a 5-star hotel, you're right. But if you're staying at a 3 to 4-star hotel, which has pretty much all the features you need for a good holiday or a good hotel, to be honest, you're gonna actually either match or sometimes even beat prices you get from Airbnbs. It's pretty surprising, honestly, because a lot of countries I go to, Airbnbs will actually beat hotels, but in Japan it's actually kind of even, to be honest. And it's a bit weird for me to say this because obviously hotels, people go there for features and stuff that you don't get from an Airbnb, so you pay the premium. But in Japan, honestly, hotels are pretty affordable for the most part, especially if you're comparing it with Airbnbs. So something to keep in mind, because I've stayed in a bunch and we've done comparisons and stuff, and honestly, sometimes, majority of the time, we actually find hotels to be much more affordable, even with the extra premium you pay on top. And this kind of brings me to my second bit, which is location. Hotels in Japan, like many hotels in the world, location is really important. And obviously, if you need to be next to a station, because in Japan, you're pretty much relying on public transport for most part, you want to be next to a train station. And hotels are generally in Japan pretty nicely kind of positioned next to a train station, normally 5 to 10 minute walk. And if the listing does say 5 to 10 minute walk, generally they actually mean it. They're not like trying to overemphasize it like, oh, you know, it's a 5 minute walk, but it's actually like a 20 minute or 15 minute walk. Generally, when it says 5 minutes, it's actually pretty accurate. And we stayed at a hotel recently, which was I think 4 minutes away from the station, and they said 5 minutes, so they were actually understating themselves. So that's something to keep in mind. Airbnbs are generally in Japan, I found, a bit more out of the way, definitely not in your central city areas, and so you do have to kind of almost haul yourself into the city, as always the station walks, and you gotta kind of keep that in mind. So hotels in Japan are obviously just way better in terms of location, and in Japan you want to be central and you want to be next to a station, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about features. Now with Japan, there's a few features that are pretty unique with hotels, one of them being a baggage forwarding or delivery service. Generally, if you're staying at another hotel or your next itinerary is like at another hotel, generally you can check if they do offer a baggage delivery service to that next hotel. It's a pretty handy feature, especially if you don't need your baggage for 1 to 2 days, because basically you can then, just like take a bunch of stuff that you want, maybe 1 day of change of clothes, and you can forward your luggage across, so you don't have to keep hauling your luggage, especially if you're traveling a lot in Japan. So that's something actually really nice to have, especially a nice feature, pretty unique feature to have in Japan. Obviously, you have other stuff like concierge or baggage storage and stuff like that, but something to keep in mind, generally a lot of features you get in the hotels, you don't get in Airbnbs. And something to keep in mind is laundry services. Now, Airbnbs generally have one big advantage over hotels. In my opinion, that is laundry services. Generally, you have a dryer, washing machine, etc. So I actually like to put Airbnbs in the middle of my itineraries normally. However, in Japan, a lot of hotels actually have laundromats. So yes, doing in-room laundry is really expensive, and it still is in Japan. But in Japan, they offer laundromats in the hotels. Normally, on a different level, there's a couple machines you can go and do your laundry. Now, obviously, you still have to pay a bit of coin, but it's not as much as obviously doing in-room laundry. But overall, if you're staying with a larger group, it might be useful to do an Airbnb or like one Airbnb in the middle of your itinerary to do all your laundry at once, which is what we did in our winter road trip recently. Something to keep in mind, you get a ton more features with hotels. However, you do get a bit of laundry kind of advantage with staying at Airbnb, so keep that in mind if you're booking. Okay, so you might be asking, well, Richard, are you just basically saying hotels are better than Airbnbs? And well, for the most part, yes, I am saying it. However, there's a few other kind of unique situations you might have. One is you have a large group and you want more space. Generally, I found that Airbnbs do definitely suit a bigger group than hotels. However, there are some definitely hotels that do large group bookings. There's not that many of them, but they do. So just keep it in mind. And from a cost perspective, it's actually quite even. So we actually did stay in a large hotel. A 2-room hotel in Tokyo instead of booking an Airbnb. So you definitely can do it if you're staying with a large group. Now, the other unique situation is if you have a car. Yes, you should firstly do a road trip in Japan. It's super fun, but let's talk about cars quickly. So from a parking perspective, a lot of hotels in Japan don't really do parking, to be honest. And if they do, it's paid normally. So you do want to check that sometimes Airbnbs do have a unique thing, which is they have parking, because you know, it's someone's own house or someone's own apartment, they have a parking spot. So for the most part they do. In Japan, we found all the hotels we stayed at, we just had to do like outside parking or like some kind of parking arrangement, which costs us a bit of money. So something to keep in mind is if you need parking, generally Airbnbs are actually gonna be better than hotels. Anyway, apart from that, hotels in my opinion are just better than Airbnbs in Japan. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below, let me know what you think. Have you had bad experiences with hotels or Airbnbs? Let me know. But generally I found hotels are just better in Japan than other countries. But yeah, let me know what you think, maybe I'm wrong. But generally, that's what I found, and I'll see you in the next video.